Overseas fighting between Armenia and Azerbaijan has spilled now into a fourth week. Dozens of civilians, hundreds of soldiers have been killed. Armenia is reporting more than 840 Armenian soldiers have died. Azerbaijan not officially announcing their casualties. So many developments with this story, and our Araksya Karapetyan has been monitoring it closely because of her connection to these communities. You actually had a chance to talk to a war correspondent who has been on the front lines.
Yep, right there in the middle of it all. More on that informative interview in a moment, but let me get you caught up on the very latest. Yesterday, Russia hosted the foreign ministers from both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, both of them heading to D.C. to meet with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo tomorrow, separately, though. Meanwhile, Turkey says it is ready to send troops to fight for Azerbaijan if requested. The situation is very serious. And yes, I was able to connect with a British journalist, a self-funded filmmaker who is taking us inside this brutal pandemic-era war, putting us literally in the middle of all the action.
So it's now currently on the front line, and as you see here, it's like trenches again. It's very much like when I was in Ukraine.
This is Emile Ghessen, a former UK Marine who served in Afghanistan and Iraq.
So now we're inside the shelter here.
Now he's a documentarian, a war correspondent, a storyteller.
We can hear the shelling coming in.
He's seen war before, but this war is different.
It's not like me when I was in the military going to Afghanistan, where we all volunteered, we all walked in the careers office, and we went to Iraq or Afghanistan to fight in another land. The people here are fighting for what they believe is their homeland, their own soil that their fathers and forefathers have lived and bled over. So it's very personal, this war.
What's also different is how this war is being fought.
So we can actually hear a drone going on now. Azerbaijan using Turkish and Israeli drones is a game changer. Psychological warfare used by the drone is the sense that all they need to do is fly the drone over once, twice, drop a few bombs from it, and then the sound of the drone in the area, again, just scares people. People just run for cover. So they're controlling and dominating people by a sound because they know it relates to dropping a bomb.
Emile's stories on Instagram are getting a lot of attention.
They should not be shelling a civilian area.
He's showing his followers what it's like on the front lines.
Hello.
And he's showing the human side of the story.
Generations of blood have been spilt over this soil.
It's quite emotional to see a grown man cry by putting their son in the ground, and watching this Armenian man kissing his son for the last time before the lid of the casket goes on and they put him into the ground was really moving.
Emile says most of the women and children have fled Stepanakert. Those who've stayed behind are too sick or physically unable to travel.
That was the only children I actually saw my whole time there. And the reason they stayed behind is because their father's on the front line and the mother was looking after her mother, who's quite ill. She stayed to tend to her mother and the kids were there. It's heartbreaking to see these kids. They're surrounded by war. Rocket launchers, this is what they're using against civilians, and really, under international law, it's a war crime.
Emile also says the locals are pinning their hope of salvation on Russia because they say the rest of the world, including the U.S., is being indifferent.
Azerbaijan and Turkey's influence in it, well, causing this and creating this war at the moment, is the timing was perfect. Because the world's attention's elsewhere. You're consumed by the U.S. elections. So if America, the most powerful country in the world with the influence around the world, is busy because there's an election coming up and COVID, they're going to turn a blind eye because the media are not interested in what's going on in a faraway land in a place called Armenia and Azerbaijan, where majority of people haven't probably even heard of them countries or couldn't even point them out on the map.
Amen. Despite all of this, Emile says that morale among the soldiers is high.
He makes that point that it seems like a world away for so many people, but in our very community, you being a resident and you were born there. This connects so close to home for many people in the Southland.
Absolutely. We have the largest Armenian community here outside of Armenia, so a lot of people following this closely and also feeling the impact of this story. It is very personal indeed, but to have this footage from him. To
From
have
the
him
inside.
there is incredible, yes. And this is why it's so important to tell these stories.
Absolutely, and I know
people.
he's looking to make a documentary to sort of make that point even further, and I understand he's trying to get the funding now to be able to do that,
yes,
right?
He wants to get funding to make a documentary. He also wants to be embedded to further understand what's going on. So, you know, we'll be in touch with him, and I've posted or will be posting online the entirety of our interview. It was a long interview. He said many things, a fascinating conversation. So just follow us online or on my social media.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that perspective. We appreciate it, Araksya.